but the Spirit of Christ is in you, namely through whom? The Holy Spirit. God the Father is not speaking to you, telling you what to do right now, but the Holy Spirit is in you, telling you what to do internally. You don't need to go to a high priest anymore, because why? The Holy Spirit is in you to tell you everything that the law was meant to tell you. The Holy Spirit is the most important person in the Trinity for Christians today. We are the first group of people whose the Holy Spirit indwells in us permanently. Even when we sin, the Holy Spirit is in us. Did you know that? Romans 8:9, you, however, are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if in fact the Spirit of God dwells in you. Anyone who does not have the Spirit of Christ does not belong to him. Meaning, the person who is truly a Christian is not based on their behavior or their obedience to laws. It's based on the simple fact, does the Holy Spirit live in you? That's the indicator of it all. And so, when did the new covenant then begin? If it was talked about in the Old Testament, when did it actually begin? Well, we know because Jesus talks about it the night before his crucifixion. And in Matthew 26 through 29, he says, now as they're eating their final meal, the Passover meal, Jesus took bread and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took a cup. When he had given thanks, he gave it to them saying, drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant. Not talking about the Mosaic covenant, which some people might have thought because he was having a Passover meal. What was the Passover meal pointing back to? The Exodus story. So the natural connection you would have thought is, oh, he's talking about the old covenant. No, but he's like, no, the blood of the covenant. Not the Passover lamb blood, but something new that Jeremiah talked about, that Ezekiel talked about. And this is where he gets very specific. He says, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. There it is. He's saying, this is the cup of a new covenant. Something that I'm not going to drink with you again until I return and have this banquet with you in the kingdom. So he's not talking about the Mosaic covenant. He's talking about his body, his blood, as a sign of the new covenant. So what is the sign of the new covenant? It's something Christians from all history have done repeatedly. The Lord's table. Do you notice? Again, I mentioned, what's the difference about the new covenant versus the Mosaic covenant? It has to do everything with the Holy Spirit. I said in my theology classes, the most important person of the Trinity for Christians is the Holy Spirit. Not saying that he's superior to the Father and Son, but he is the most applicable person of the Trinity today. Because you know how the presence of God is manifested in your life today? It's because Jesus is not physically next to you. But the Spirit of Christ is in you, namely through whom? The Holy Spirit. God the Father is not speaking to you, telling you what to do right now. But the Holy Spirit is in you, telling you what to do internally. You don't need to go to a high priest anymore, because why? The Holy Spirit is in you to tell you everything that the law was meant to tell you. The Holy Spirit is the most important person in the Trinity for Christians today. Because he is the one who not just tells you what to do, not just empowers you what to do, he will literally comfort you and be with you. He is the presence of God for you until Jesus returns. He is what Paul says in Ephesians is the down payment of the return of Christ. The down payment back in those days is that if a man wanted to marry a woman, he had to go to the bride's parents and give them a down payment, literally like a down payment on the house. Here's 1,000 cows, depending how beautiful the person is, maybe 10 cows if you're ugly, right? So here's the down payment. Here's the down payment. The down payment is promising you that one day I will return with full payment and marry you. So the down payment is the engagement ring. It's the promise. And you know what the engagement ring Jesus gave to us before he left and saying, I will return for you, church, is what? The Holy Spirit. So that's why you must know if the Holy Spirit is in you or not. That's the only question that matters for every Christian. I don't care your church, I don't care any of that. Does the Spirit of God live in you? That's why Paul talks about the fruit of the what? Did he say law? Obedience is fruit of the Spirit. And do you notice the fruit of the Spirit has no actions listed in there? Because why? It's easy to fabricate fake fruit if it's action. Unbelievers can go to church every week. That doesn't take the power of God to go to church every week. It doesn't take the power of God to drink or to not drink. It doesn't take the power of God to murder or to not murder. What is the fruit of the Spirit? It has nothing to do with external actions, but it's all internal character traits. Love, joy, peace, patience. That takes supernatural power for you to actually have that fruit. Because it's not just love the way culture defines it, it's divine love. It's not just joy that's based on circumstances. That's happiness. It's joy that is what? Internally non-dependent on circumstances. Love, joy, peace. Can you imagine having peace during this chaotic, sin-cursed world? Patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. And the word fruit is singular. You can't pick and choose. Well, I sometimes loving, but I don't have self-control. No, it comes as a package. It's a singular fruit of the Spirit. This is all in you or is not in you. Now, it doesn't mean it's perfected, but there should be seeds of that fruit in you that is growing.